Let me feel your breaths. 6 words. Sergeant Michael Hayes steps forward in the medical tent. Yuki Nakamura, 22 years old, stops breathing entirely. The canvas walls flap in the June heat. Okinawa, 1945. The smell of antiseptic burns her nostrils. The translator repeats it. In Japanese this time. Kokyu wo kanji sasete kudasai. Same words. No mistake. Her knees buckle. Behind her, 18 other women press against the canvas wall. They know what comes next. They have always known what comes next. This is the moment every training session warned about, the moment every officer described in careful, brutal detail. Amerikajin wa kimono da. Americans are beasts. They start with the women. Every whispered warning, every propaganda poster, every story from captured villages. This moment right now proves all of it true. But something is wrong. The American is not moving toward her. He stands perfectly still, holding something metallic. Not a weapon, not restraints, something with tubes, medical equipment. She recognizes the shape, but her brain refuses to process what it means. A stethoscope. The cold metal disc catches the light from the tent opening. Behind Hayes, Lieutenant Sarah Chen steps forward. 28 years old, Chinese-American, blonde hair pinned back in regulation style. She is holding fabric, white fabric, clean fabric. The first clean cloth Yuki has seen in 7 months. It smells like something she cannot identify at first. Then memory surfaces. Ivory soap, American soap, the soap her mother used to dream about before the war, before everything changed. Chen is smiling. Why is she smiling? Over 27,000 Japanese women served in the Pacific Theater by 1945. 27,000 nurses, medics, communications officers, administrative personnel. Women who believed they were serving their emperor. Women who were told they would never be taken alive. Women who were given cyanide capsules and told that death was preferable to capture. Only 200 survived to become prisoners of war. 200 out of 27,000. The mathematics of that survival rate tells its own story. Most chose the cyanide. Most chose to die rather than face what they believed would come next. Yuki Nakamura is one of the 200, aged 19 when they conscripted her from the nursing school in Osaka. Top of her class, perfect marks in anatomy, surgical, assistance, field medicine. They told her she was being selected for special duty. Everyone envied her. Special duty meant better food, better quarters, recognition from officers who usually looked through enlisted women as if they did not exist. She is 22 now, 3 years older, a lifetime older. She has walked through artillery fire that turned the ground into soup. She has treated dysentery with nothing but boiled water and prayer. She has gone 4 days without food and learned that the human body can survive on less than you think, far less than you ever imagined possible. She watched her best friend Akiko die of tuberculosis in a field hospital with no medicine, no treatment, nothing but a cot in the corner and the sound of her lungs filling with a fluid. None of that prepared her for this moment. The translator speaks again. An older man, maybe 50, Japanese civilian pressed into service by the Americans. His voice shakes slightly as he translates Hayes' words. The sergeant needs to examine you for tuberculosis. The examination requires listening to your chest breathing. Please change into this gown. You will have privacy behind the curtain. Yuki's hands will not stop shaking. Chen holds up the white gown. Medical issue, American military standard. The fabric is soft, real cotton, not the rough hemp blend of Japanese military uniforms. Not the scratchy wool of winter coats that left your skin raw and bleeding. This is soft. This is clean. This is impossible. The nurse gestures toward a curtained area. Private, enclosed. She speaks broken Japanese, each word careful and deliberate. Anata wa anzen desu. You are safe. Anzen. Safe. The word does not compute. Safety is a concept Yuki abandoned in 1943 when they put her on a transport ship to Manila. Safety is something that exists in childhood memories and nowhere else. Behind the curtain, Yuki changes slowly. Her fingers fumble with the buttons of her torn uniform. The fabric is stiff with salt and sweat and things she does not want to think about. Underneath her skin is mapped with scars, shrapnel wounds that healed badly, burns from cooking fires in the field. the ridge of bone where malnutrition has carved away everything soft. She pulls the white gown over her head. The fabric whispers against her skin. Clean. Impossibly clean. It smells like soap and sunlight and some kind of detergent she does not recognize. American abundance. American excess. American mercy or American trap, she cannot tell which. Sergeant Hayes does not look at her when she emerges from behind the curtain. His eyes stay on the paperwork clipped to a metal board. Professional, clinical, bored even. This is not the face of a man preparing to commit violence. This is the face of a man who has done this examination 100 times before and will do it 100 times more. He speaks. The translator echoes. I need to check for tuberculosis. The examination requires chest access. I will use this stethoscope to listen to your breathing. I will not touch your skin directly. The metal may feel cold. Tell me if you experience any pain. Hayes moves toward her. Yuki flinches anyway. Every muscle in her body tightens. Every nerve screams. But his hands do not reach for her. They reach for the stethoscope. He presses the metal disc against the white gown, against fabric. Never skin, left side, right side, back. His face stays neutral, counting heartbeats, listening to the air move through damaged lungs. Nothing else. Nothing more. Breathe in. The translator echoes. Yuki breathes. Her ribs ache from malnutrition. The bones are too close to the surface. She can feel them shift with each breath. Again, she breathes again. The stethoscope moves, cold metal trails across her shoulder blades. Professional, clinical, medical. This is not assault. This is medicine. Chen scribbles notes on a chart. Her handwriting is cramped, efficient, the kind of handwriting that comes from filling out 1,000 forms under pressure. She does not look up, does not meet Yuki's eyes, just writes, records, documents. In Japanese military medical examinations, you stand in lines. Naked, male doctors, no curtains, no privacy. Weakness means punishment. Coughing means isolation. Fever means abandonment. You learn to hide everything. You learn to show nothing. You learn that your body is not your own, but property of the emperor to be used and discarded as needed. This tent has curtains. This tent has privacy. This officer has not raised his voice. This nurse speaks Japanese badly, but she is trying. She is trying. The dissonance is breaking something in Yuki's brain. The careful structure of propaganda. The solid certainty of what Americans are. The absolute knowledge of what happens to captured women. All of it cracking, all of it failing, all of it wrong. Hayes moves to her neck, presses gently below her jaw, checking lymph nodes, tuberculosis indicators. Standard protocol. His fingers are calloused but careful. Rough skin from years of military service, but gentle pressure. Professional touch, medical touch. Swallow. She swallows. He makes a note. Chen approaches with something else. A wooden stick, tongue depressor, open. Yuki opens her mouth. The wood tastes like nothing. Clean, sterile, foreign. Chen examines her throat, writes more notes. The scratching of pencil on paper is the loudest sound in the tent. Hayes examines her hands next, turns them over, checks her nails, malnutrition indicators, yellow discoloration, brittle edges, signs of vitamin deficiency that will take months to correct. He writes something, then stops. His eyes narrow. He is looking at her arms, the inside of her elbows. Small marks there. Grid patterns. 4 marks on her left arm. 4 marks on her right arm. Perfect squares. 2 centimeters apart. Too precise for combat wounds. Too regular for accidents. Too deliberate for anything natural. Hayes calls Chen over. They whisper in English. Low voices, medical terminology. Yuki catches one word. Injection. She knows that word. The same in Japanese. Chusha. Injection. Chen's face changes. The professional mask slips for just a moment. Something passes across her features. Concern. No, not concern. Alarm. She shows Hayes something on the clipboard. Medical notes. Previous examination records. Something that makes Hayes's jaw tighten. Carrera wa nani wo mitsuketa no. What did they find? The translator has not spoken in 2 minutes. He is reading the clipboard over Hayes' shoulder. His face has gone gray, the color of old paper, the color of bad news. Hayes turns back to Yuki. His voice is different now, softer, more careful, as if he is handling something fragile that might shatter. We need to ask you some questions about the injections. Who gave them to you? When? Where? Why? Injections. Yuki stares at her own arms. The grid pattern marks. 8 small punctures. 4 on each side. She had forgotten about them. They have been there so long they became invisible. Part of the landscape of her damaged skin. March 1945. Field hospital outside Manila. They called it vitamin supplementation. All nurses received it. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. Captain Iwata administered the shots himself. Very professional. Very careful. He explained that the vitamins would help them resist disease in the field, strengthen their immune systems, improve their ability to serve. 3 sessions, 3 days apart, each time a shot in each arm, each time they told her to rest afterward, each time she woke up hours later feeling strange, tired, sore, disoriented. They said it was normal. Side effects from such concentrated vitamins. It would pass. That is what Captain Iwata said, before he disappeared, before the Americans started advancing and officers began burning documents and everyone who knew too much began vanishing into the chaos of retreat. Hayes points to the grid pattern. 4 marks, perfect squares, 2 centimeters apart. No combat wound makes patterns like that. No accident creates such precise spacing. This is deliberate. This is planned. This is something done to her rather than something that happened to her when he asked through the translator, March, 4 months ago. How many times? 3 sessions, 3 days apart. He writes it down. Chen writes it down. The translator writes it down. Everyone is writing and no one is explaining why this matters. Hayes and Chen exchange looks. Something unspoken passes between them. A recognition, a horror, a knowledge they wish they did not have. Watashi wa nani wo chusha sareta no. What was I injected with? The question she never asked. The question she was trained not to ask. Officers give orders. Enlisted follow orders. You do not question. You do not doubt. You trust that your superiors know what they are doing and why. Chen gestures toward a machine in the corner of the tent. Large. Metal. Looks like a camera mounted on an articulated arm. X-ray machine. The translator explains. They want to photograph inside your chest. Inside. Inside your body. Inside where things should be private and hidden, and yours alone. Yuki's throat tightens. She does not understand what they are looking for, but their faces tell her it is not good. Their careful voices tell her something is very wrong. Their clinical professionalism is a mask over something darker. By 1945, tuberculosis infection rate in the Japanese military was 34%. 1 in 3 soldiers carried the disease. It killed 140,000 Japanese soldiers that year alone. More than American bullets, more than bombs, more than starvation. The silent killer that moved through crowded ships and cramped barracks in field hospitals where sick and healthy shared the same air. In Japanese field hospitals, TB diagnosis meant isolation, then death. No treatment existed. No medicine was allocated. Resources went to soldiers who could still fight. A nurse with tuberculosis was a liability, a drain on supplies. You coughed until you stopped. That was the protocol. That was the mercy. Yuki helped carry 17 bodies to burial pits. 17 nurses and medics. Her friends, her teachers, her unit. She remembers their faces. She remembers the sound of their breathing growing wetter and wetter until it stopped. She remembers thinking that one day it would be her turn and there was nothing she could do about it. The X-ray machine hums, an electric sound, modern, American. Chen positions Yuki against the cold metal plate, arms raised, metal against spine. The temperature shock makes her gasp. Hold still. She holds still. Her body knows how to follow orders even when her mind is screaming. Click. The sound is surprisingly soft, anticlimactic. The chemical smell of developer fills the tent. Sharp, acidic, burning her nostrils the way the antiseptic burned when she first entered. 2 minutes later, Hayes holds the film up to a light box. White light blazing through gray shadows of bone and tissue. Yuki watches his face. Professional mask firmly back in place. But his eyes do not lie. He stares at the film for 10 seconds, then 15, then 20. What? She asked through the translator. What is it? What do you see? Hayes does not answer immediately. He points to something on the film, a shadow in her left lung, dark cloud against gray tissue. Chen leans in, examines, nods. They consult in whispers, medical terms, Latin, English, languages Yuki does not speak. Finally, Hayes turns to her. His voice is very quiet. There is a shadow in your left lung. Tuberculosis, early stage, treatable. Cage shadow. The Japanese word for death sentence. For slow suffocation. For burial pits and burned bodies and 17 friends who cough themselves into silence. But Hayes is not looking at her like she is dying. He is looking at her like she is something that can be saved. Like she is worth saving. Treatable, he says. The translator struggles with the word. Chiryu kanu. Treatable. The concept does not translate. There is no Japanese military word for treatable tuberculosis. The ideas do not coexist in the same sentence. Chiryu to wa dona imi desu ka. What does treatable mean? What does it mean that something killing you can be stopped? That death has an off switch? That the future is not already written in shadows on your lungs? Chen opens a metal case. Inside, glass vials, syringes, medicine Yuki has never seen. Streptomycin, Hayes says. New, developed during the war, works on tuberculosis. You are lucky we caught it early. You have maybe 6 months before symptoms would have become severe. We can treat it. We can cure it. Lucky. Yuki starts laughing, then crying. She cannot tell the difference anymore. The sounds coming from her throat are not quite either. Lucky, saved by enemies, healed by the people who were supposed to be beasts. The world has turned inside out. But Hayes is not finished. He is still staring at the X-ray, at something else. His brow furrows. Professional mask slipping again. He taps the film, below the lung shadow, near her stomach. Small white specks scattered like stars across the darkness. The shadow is not the problem. His voice drops even lower. It is what is underneath it. What is below the tuberculosis? What should not be there at all? Underneath, Yuki follows his finger on the X-ray, below the gray shadows of her lungs, in the dark region of her abdomen. White spots, bright against the darkness. Foreign, wrong. Things that do not belong inside a human body. Metal fragments, Hayes says. Foreign objects, surgically implanted. 14 of them, each one smaller than a rice grain, distributed in a precise pattern across your abdominal cavity. Yuki shakes her head. Watashi wa shujutsu wo uketa koto ga arimasen. I never had surgery. Never. I would remember. I would know. You did. Hayes's voice is gentle now, almost apologetic. You just do not remember it. The sedation they used, the drugs they gave you. They were designed to make you forget, to make you compliant, to make you believe the lies they told about vitamins and health and serving your emperor. The tent goes completely silent. Chen stops writing. The translator stops translating. Even the canvas walls seem to stop flapping. Everything stops except the sound of Yuki's breathing. Fast, shallow, panicked. Watashi no karada, no naka ni naniga. What is inside my body? What did they put inside me without asking? Without permission? Without consent? What violation is permanent and hidden and carried with her everywhere she goes? She touches her abdomen, feels nothing unusual. No scars she can see, no lumps she can identify, no pain she can locate. But the X-ray does not lie. 14 metal fragments, each one placed deliberately, each one serving some purpose she does not understand. Hayes has seen this pattern before. Twice. Both times in prisoners from a specific unit. Both times in women who were told they were receiving vitamin supplements. Both times in victims who did not remember the surgery that carved them open and placed foreign objects inside. Where were you stationed in February 1945? His voice is very careful now, as if the answer matters more than anything. Harbin, Yuki says, Manchuria, medical training facility, advanced techniques. They told us we were learning the newest methods, the most modern procedures. We were honored to be selected. Hayes's pen stops moving. Chen's face goes white. The translator takes a step backward. Everyone in the tent knows what Harbin means. Everyone in U.S. military intelligence understands what that name represents. Harbin, Unit 731 headquarters. The place where medical experiments became atrocities, where human beings were reduced to test subjects, where the boundaries of science were pushed past morality into something darker, something unforgivable. Unit 731 conducted experiments on 3,000 to 10,000 victims between 1937 and 1945, biological weapons testing, surgical procedures without anesthesia, radiation exposure, frostbite studies, vivisection, human beings dissected alive to see how organs function under stress. The official subjects were Chinese and Korean prisoners, civilians captured during the expansion, people who were already considered less than human by the empire, people whose deaths would not be mourned by anyone who mattered. But there were unofficial subjects too, anyone convenient, anyone available, anyone who asked too few questions, Japanese soldiers who knew too much, Japanese medics who saw too much, Japanese nurses selected for special duty who were told they were being honored. The vitamin injections, Hayes says slowly, very carefully, as if each word might shatter something fragile. Did they put you to sleep first? Did you lose consciousness during the procedure? Do you remember anything about those 3 days beyond going in and waking up sore? Yuki thinks, tries to remember. March 1945. 4 months ago, but it feels like years, decades, another lifetime. She remembers reporting to the medical building. She remembers Captain Iwata with his kind smile and careful hands. She remembers the needle sliding into her arm. Then nothing. A gap. Hours missing. She remembers waking up in a recovery room. Alone, disoriented, sore, so sore. The kind of deep ache that comes from something more than an injection. But they said it was normal. They said concentrated vitamins cause inflammation. They said the pain would pass in a few days. I woke up tired. She admits, sore. More than I expected, but they said it was normal. They said everyone reacted that way. They gave me pills for the pain. Normal. Hayes repeats the word like a curse. 14 metal fragments implanted in a 22-year-old nurse's abdomen without her knowledge or consent. Normal. Standard procedure. Nothing to question. Watashi wa jikintai shu data no. Was I an experiment? Was I reduced to subject number and observation notes? Was I carved open and used and sealed back up like nothing happened? Like my body belongs to anyone who wants to use it for science or service or whatever excuse they tell themselves at night. She asks the question aloud. The translator flinches, translates. Hayes does not answer. His silence is answer enough. Chen pulls out a different form. Red border, classification stamps across the top. War Crimes Documentation Unit. Official investigation, legal proceeding. We need to photograph everything, the injection sites, the x-rays, your testimony, every detail you can remember. Testimony, Yuki is no longer a patient. She is evidence. She is proof. She is the thing that will be examined and documented and used to build a case against people she trusted. People who smiled at her and called her special and told her she was serving her emperor while they carved her open and planted metal inside. Outside the tent, someone screams. Not fear, shock, recognition. Another woman has just learned what was done to her. Another nurse has just seen the x-ray of her own violated body. Another victim has just become evidence. The sound cuts through the afternoon heat like a knife. Sharp, clean, final. Yuki Nakamura sits in an American medical tent in Okinawa. June 1945. Her body carries tuberculosis that will kill her in 6 months if left untreated. Her body carries 14 metal fragments placed there by her own military. Her body carries 3 years of war and trauma and survival. And for the first time since she was conscripted at age 19, she understands that the real enemy might not be wearing the uniform she expected. The scream outside belongs to Sachiko Hayashi, 19 years old, 3 weeks captured. Still believes most of the propaganda because nothing has happened yet to make her doubt. Until now, until the X-ray, until the white specks scattered across the film like accusation. Hayes moves toward the tent entrance. Chen follows. Yuki stays frozen on the examination table, white gown rustling with each shallow breath. The fabric that smelled like mercy 5 minutes ago now feels like a shroud. Clean, soft, American. But mercy is complicated when you discover your own people did worse things than the enemy ever planned. Through the canvas gap, Yuki watches the scene unfold. Tent 4, same setup, same equipment, same terrible revelation. Sachiko stands rigid in front of an X-ray light box. A different doctor, a different nurse. Same horrified expression as they point to the same constellation of metal fragments. Same pattern, same placement, same surgical precision. 7 women. That is what Hayes told Chen when he thought Yuki could not hear. 7 out of 19 show the marks. 7 sets of injection grid patterns. 7 abdomens full of metal that should not be there. 7 victims who thought they were receiving vitamins. The mathematics is brutal. 7 out of 19. 37%. More than 1 in 3. If you select randomly from a population of Japanese female prisoners of war who passed through Harbin in early 1945, you have better than 1 in 3 odds of finding experimental subjects. Human test cases. Women whose bodies were borrowed without asking and returned damaged. Captain Marcus Webb arrives 14 minutes later, 41 years old. War Crimes Documentation Unit. Lean face, sharp eyes. The kind of man who has seen too much and remembers all of it. He carries a leather briefcase, red-bordered forms, official stamps, the machinery of justice grinding slowly into motion. He sets up in the command tent. Metal table, 2 chairs, recording equipment. This is not an interrogation. This is documentation. But the difference feels thin when you are the one answering questions while someone writes down everything you say. Hayes brings Yuki to the table. She still wears the white gown. They gave her slippers. American military issue. Too large. They flap when she walks. The sound is absurd, comical. Nothing about this situation is funny, but the slippers make that flapping sound and it almost breaks her. Webb does not smile, does not offer comfort, just gestures to the chair and opens his briefcase. Inside files, photographs, documents in Japanese and English, evidence from other investigations, other victims, other crimes that are still being cataloged and organized and prepared for tribunals that may or may not ever happen. State your name for the record. His voice is neutral, professional, not unkind but not warm. The voice of a man who has learned not to get emotionally involved because emotional involvement makes this work impossible. Yuki Nakamura. Her voice sounds strange, too small for the tent, too quiet for what is happening. Age, 22, rank, nurse, 2nd class, unit. Imperial Japanese Army Medical Corps, stationed where in February 1945. Harbin, Manchuria, medical training facility attached to the research division. Webb writes it all down, neat block letters, every word recorded, every detail preserved. Did you know this facility was associated with Unit 731? Yuki hesitates. Knows now. Did not know then. We were told it was an advanced medical training program. New techniques, modern procedures. An honor to be selected. Who selected you? The question that matters. The question that starts unraveling everything. Colonel Kenji Tanaka, 52 years old. Career officer. Posted to Harbin 1943. He visited Osaka twice, reviewed our class, selected 12 nurses for transfer. I was one of them. Describe him. Webb leans forward slightly. This is important. This is the thread he pulls to unwind the whole conspiracy. Thin, very neat, mustache trimmed every day, gold-rimmed glasses, round lenses. He polished them constantly, had a cloth in his breast pocket, white, pristine. He used it between every conversation. Polishing, always polishing. As if he could not bear to see the world through anything less than perfect clarity. What did he wear? Full dress uniform. Always, even in the medical facility where everyone else wore surgical whites or field dress. He maintained appearance. Boots polished to mirrors, every button aligned. He cared about presentation, about perception, about the image of authority and control. How did he speak? Softly. You had to lean in to hear him. That made him more frightening somehow. Loud men you can predict. Soft-voiced men keep you off balance. Every conversation felt like sharing a secret you did not want to know. What did he say when he selected you? That I had been chosen for important work. That the empire needed women like me. Smart women. Dedicated women. Women who understood duty and service. He said I should be proud. Were you? Proud. Yuki closes her eyes. Remembers the girl she was 8 months ago, remembers believing, remembers the pride that swelled in her chest when Colonel Tanaka called her name, remembers thinking she was special, chosen, important. Yes, I was proud. I believed him. I believed everything. Webb writes it all down, every word, every detail, building a profile of a man he has been chasing through 17 separate investigations. Colonel Kenji Tanaka, 52 years old, career military, rose through ranks during China campaigns, stationed Harbin 43 to 45, oversaw medical experimentation programs, recruited female personnel specifically, young, educated, trusting. The pattern is consistent across all 17 files. He targets women, uses their ambition, their desire to serve, their training to obey authority without question. Then he destroys them, carves them open, plants his experiments inside their bodies, sends them back to service carrying evidence they do not know exists. But Colonel Tanaka has always stayed one step ahead, transfers before investigations conclude, documents burned, evidence destroyed, witnesses eliminated or disappeared into the chaos of war. This time might be different. This time Webb has 7 living witnesses, 7 women who carry the proof inside their bodies. Evidence that cannot be burned or buried or made to vanish. If he can find Tanaka before the colonel disappears again. The examination continues through late afternoon. Webb asks about the injections, the facility, the procedures, other nurses who were selected, doctors who supervised, officers who observed. Every name gets written down, every detail recorded. The machinery of justice requires fuel and fuels information. When Webb finishes with Yuki, he calls the next woman. Then the next, 7 testimonies, 7 identical stories, vitamin supplementation, 3 sessions, 3 days apart, waking up sore, recovery rooms, missing hours, gaps in memory that should not exist. By evening, Webb has 60 pages of documentation. Names, dates, procedures, locations, a map of crimes that stretches across multiple facilities in 3 years of operation. The scope is staggering. This is not isolated incidents. This is systematic, organized, sanctioned from somewhere high enough that lower officers follow orders without question. Yuki sits outside the command tent. Other women join her. Sachiko, Fumiko, Keiko, Haruna, Mieko, Noriko. 7 women who share the same violation, same pattern of marks, same constellation of metal. They do not speak much. What is there to say? Language fails in the face of this kind of betrayal. Lieutenant Chen finds them as the sun sets, orange light turning everything gold, beautiful. The world is still beautiful even when everything inside feels broken. She carries a tray, food, real food, not the cold rice and pickled vegetables of military rations. American POW camp dinner, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, white bread with butter, apple pie for dessert. The smell alone is overwhelming. Rich, complex, layered with spices and fat in abundance that seems obscene after years of near starvation. The women stare at the food. No one moves. This is another test, another trap, another thing that seems too good to be true because everything that seemed good turned out to be a lie. Chen sets the tray down, demonstrates, takes a piece of chicken, bites, chews, swallows. See, safe, food. You need to eat. Your bodies need protein, calories, nutrition to heal. Still no one moves. Chen tries different approach. Sits down beside them. Starts talking. Not about food, not about eating. About protocol 7F. Directive created 1943 by Lieutenant Margaret Holloway. Nurse Corps, Pacific Theater. She fought for it, argued with commanders, submitted formal proposals, threatened to go public if they did not implement protections for female prisoners. Protocol 7F mandates female-only medical staff for female POW examinations, privacy curtains, informed consent for all procedures, daily health checks, access to feminine hygiene products, psychological support, basic dignity. Most commanders thought it was unnecessary, waste of resources. But Holloway persisted. She understood something they did not, that how you treat prisoners says more about your values than how you treat your own people. That mercy is not weakness. That maintaining humanity in wartime is the only thing that separates civilization from barbarism. Protocol 7F saved hundreds of women, maybe thousands. Japanese, Korean, Chinese, German, Italian. Every woman processed through Pacific Theater POW camps after 1943 received medical care designed to preserve dignity. Not because they deserved it, not because they earned it, but because it was right. Chen finishes her story, points to the food again. This is Protocol 7F. This is what mercy looks like. Not grand gestures, just chicken and potatoes and the understanding that hunger does not distinguish between friend and enemy. Yuki reaches for a piece of chicken. The meat is still warm, the skin is crispy, salt and pepper and some herbs she cannot identify. She bites, flavor explodes across her tongue, rich, savory, fat and protein and taste that is almost painful after months of bland rations. She chews slowly, swallows, feels the food hit her empty stomach like a blessing. The other women follow, tentative at first, then faster. Hunger overrides suspicion. Bodies know what they need even when minds are still processing trauma. They eat until the tray is empty, until every scrap is gone, until they are full for the first time in recent memory. Chen collects the tray, smiles. Tomorrow breakfast is at 0700. Bacon, eggs, toast, real coffee. You will need your strength. Treatment starts in the morning. She leaves. The women sit in the gathering darkness, bellies full, minds spinning. Everything they were taught about Americans is colliding with reality. Propaganda said beasts. Experience shows caregivers. The cognitive dissonance is literally restructuring their understanding of the world. Tent 3 sits apart from the others, isolated, quiet. Inside, Reiko Yoshida has not moved in 6 days. 24 years old. Captured 2 weeks ago. Processed through standard intake. Medical examination. No physical injuries. No disease. But something broken that does not show on x-rays. The guards bring food 3 times daily. She does not touch it. They offer water. She drinks enough to survive, nothing more. They speak to her in Japanese. English. Try everything. She stares through them, seeing something no one else can see. Yuki knows Reiko. They trained together Osaka 1943. Same class, same instructors, same dreams of serving honorably. Reiko was brilliant. Top marks in surgical assistance. Steady hands, clear thinking under pressure. Perfect candidate for advancement. When Colonel Tanaka selected nurses for Harbin transfer, Reiko was first on the list. Everyone envied her, special assignment, recognition, honor. She left Osaka with her head high, proud, ready to serve at the highest levels. Nobody envied her when she came back. Yuki enters the tent slowly, announces herself in Japanese. Reiko, watashi wa Yuki Nakamura desu. It is me, Yuki, from Osaka, from before. Reiko does not respond, does not blink, just stares at the canvas wall, seeing through it to something beyond. Something terrible. They found the metal inside me. Yuki continues. 14 pieces, implanted during the vitamin injections. Colonel Tanaka's program. I know you were there. I know you saw. Still nothing, but Reiko's hands tighten slightly, gripping the blanket. First movement in days. They want testimony for War Crimes Tribunal. They need witnesses who can describe what happened at Harbin. What procedures were done, who ordered them, who performed them. Reiko's lips move. No sound, just movement. Yuki leans closer, strains to hear. Testimony about what I did. The words are barely whisper. Broken glass, shattered, but clear enough. What you did. Yuki's blood goes cold. Ice spreading through her veins. What do you mean what you did? Reiko sits up slowly. First time in 6 days. Her hospital gown hangs loose. She has lost 20 pounds since capture. Cheekbones sharp enough to cut. Eyes hollow. Haunted. The face of someone who has seen things that cannot be unseen. I assisted the surgeries. Each word costs effort, costs something precious, costs pieces of whatever is left of her soul. I held them down while Dr. Nakamura cut, while Colonel Tanaka observed, while you screamed and fought, and I pressed your arms to the table and told you to be still, to stop fighting, that it would be over soon. Yuki cannot breathe, cannot process, cannot reconcile this information with anything that makes sense. Anata wa watashi wo osaete ita. You were holding me down. You were part of it. Help them. Had no choice. Reiko's voice gained strength, bitterness, self-loathing. Colonel Tanaka showed me photographs of my mother's house, my sisters walking to school. He described their teens, what time they woke, what route they took, how easy it would be for accidents to happen, how tragedy strikes families who do not serve the empire properly. Standard Unit 7-3, one coercion tactics, family hostages, implicit threats, never explicit enough to be documented, never direct enough to be called blackmail. Just understanding, just knowing that cooperation keeps loved ones safe and resistance brings consequences. He brought my cousin to his office. Reiko continues, also a nurse at the facility. He beat her in front of me, not enough to cause permanent damage, just enough to demonstrate, to show what happens. Then he asked if I understood the consequences of non-cooperation. I understood. How many? Yuki's voice is flat, emotionless, because feeling anything right now would break her completely. How many procedures? Approximately 30. Reiko's eyes are dry, beyond tears, beyond anything that simple. 27 survived the immediate procedure. 3 died. Infection, blood loss, reaction to the sedation drugs. We disposed of the bodies, continued with the next scheduled surgery. Standard protocol when experimental subjects fail to survive. 3 died. 3 women who trusted their military, who believed they were serving their emperor, who went to sleep thinking vitamins and woke up never. 3 bodies in unmarked graves or cremated to ash or dumped somewhere no one would find them. Did I scream? Yuki needs to know, needs to understand what her mind blocked out, what trauma hid in the gaps of memory. You all screamed. Reiko's voice breaks finally. You fought. You begged. The sedation was supposed to render you unconscious. Completely. But it did not work properly. You were paralyzed but aware. Unable to move but feeling everything. Dr. Nakamura said the partial sedation made observations more accurate. Patient responses to pain. Stress indicators. Real-time data. Yuki tastes bile. Swallows hard. Forces it down. I do not remember screaming. Your mind protected you. Reiko reaches out, touches Yuki's hand. The first human contact she has initiated in 6 days. I remember for both of us. I remember every face, every voice, every moment. That is my punishment, my burden. You forget. I cannot. Captain Webb enters the tent. He has been standing outside, listening, recording. Everything is evidence. Everything is testimony. Even private conversations between 2 broken women. Miss Yoshida. His voice is gentle as a man like him can manage. I need you to testify, not about what you did, about what you saw, who gave orders, who designed the procedures, who selected the subjects. You were coerced, that is clear. But you are also the only witness who can describe the full scope of the operation. If I testify, Reiko looks up at him, studies his face, searching for judgment, finding only tired professionalism. What happens to me afterward? Nothing. Webb sits down, not looming, not intimidating, just another exhausted person in a tent full of horrors. You were threatened. Your family was used as leverage. Under international law, that is coercion. Forced cooperation. You are a witness, not a criminal. But I held them down. I helped cut them open. I disposed of bodies. How is that not criminal? Because you did not design the program, did not volunteer for it, did not have meaningful choice. Webb pulls out a file, shows her, photographs, documents. This is what we do to the people who gave the orders. Colonel Tanaka, Dr. Nakamura, the officers who observed and approved. They face justice. You face recovery. Reiko stares at the photographs. Colonel Tanaka's service record. Dr. Nakamura's personnel file. Faces of men who smiled while they destroyed lives. Men who polished their glasses and maintained perfect uniforms and spoke softly about duty and honor while orchestrating atrocities. I will tell you everything. Her voice is steady now, decided. But first I need to see what they put inside me. I need to know what I was complicit in creating. The operating tent smells like ether and steel and antiseptic, clinical, modern, American medical equipment that seems like science fiction compared to Japanese field hospital supplies. Dr. Samuel Burns, 52, Army pathologist, 20 years experience, hands steady, eyes kind, the sort of doctor who chose medicine because he genuinely wanted to heal. Reiko lies on the operating table, refuses full sedation, wants to watch, needs to see. Yuki stands behind glass partition with Lieutenant Chen, observing, bearing witness. Because someone needs to see this, someone needs to remember. Dr. Burns makes the first incision 3 centimeters below her navel. Clean line. Professional. The kind of cut that will heal with minimal scarring. You will feel pressure, not pain. Tell me immediately if that changes. Pressure. Reiko nods. I want to see everything. Burns works slowly, methodically, tweezers entering the wound, searching, finding. The first fragment comes out with a soft click, metal against metal tray. Reiko cranes her neck. Burns tilts the tray toward her. Lets her see a metal cylinder, smaller than a pencil eraser, coated in biological material, tissue, fluid, the residue of 4 months inside a human body. That was inside you, Burns says quietly. Radioactive tracer. Experimental tracking technology. They were testing viability of long-term implantation, using human subjects as containers for developing weapons technology. Human subjects, not patients, not people. Subjects, the language of experimentation, the vocabulary that allows doctors to do terrible things while maintaining professional detachment. Second fragment extracted. Third, fourth. Reiko counts each one. Her lips move silently. Tracking, remembering. 8, 9, manam. 10, how many total? Burns checks the x-ray again. 14 implanted. 10 are accessible, 4 are too deep. Removing them would cause more damage than leaving them in place. They will remain. Forever. Reiko closes her eyes, accepts it. I will carry pieces of this inside me until I die. The isotopes have decayed. Burns continues extraction. 11, 12. The metal itself is inert now. You will not get sick from radiation. They will not move or cause problems. Just small pieces of metal embedded in your peritoneal cavity. Your body will form scar tissue around them. Isolate them. Eventually you will forget they are there. But Reiko will never forget. None of them will forget. You do not forget having your body opened without permission. Having technology planted inside you like seeds in soil. Being used as experimental ground for weapons development while being told you are serving your country. The surgery takes 90 minutes. 10 fragments extracted. 4 remain. Burns closes the incision. Careful stitches. The kind that will heal clean, leave minimal marks. As if that matters. It is as if physical scars are the problem when psychological damage runs so much deeper. Yuki undergoes her procedure next, lies on the same table, watches the same ceiling, feels the same pressure as Burns opens her abdomen and begins extraction. 1, 2, 3, counting fragments, counting violations, counting pieces of betrayal. 11 removed from Yuki, 3 remain too deep. She will carry them forever. Small metal reminders that her body was never really hers, that autonomy is illusion, that trust can be weaponized. By evening, 4 women have undergone extraction surgery, 28 fragments removed total, 16 remain, permanent residents, foreign objects that will outlast their hosts, that will persist in cremated ash or decomposed tissue, that will be the last part of these women to disappear from the earth. Captain Webb has testimonies from all 7 women. 60 pages becomes 80, then 100. Names accumulate. Colonel Kenji Tanaka, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, Captain Iwata, Lieutenant Sato, 15 officers and doctors who participated, who designed, who implemented, who observed, who approved. He seals the documents in a diplomatic pouch. This goes to General Douglas MacArthur's office tomorrow morning. Supreme Commander Allied Powers, the man overseeing occupation of Japan, the man who will decide whether to pursue war crimes prosecutions or grant immunity in exchange for cooperation. Justice is never clean, never simple. Politics complicate everything. But Webb does his job, documents, preserves, builds the case. Whether anyone acts on it is beyond his control. The 7 women gather outside the medical tent, evening air cooling after the day's heat. Somewhere a radio plays, American music, big band, Glenn Miller. The sound of a culture they do not understand, a world they are not part of. But it is not hostile, not threatening, just different. Tomorrow they start tuberculosis treatment, streptomycin injections, daily for 6 weeks, then weekly for 6 months. The medicine that did not exist when Hayes' sister Sarah died in 1943. The cure that came too late for thousands, but just in time for 7 Japanese nurses who expected to die and found themselves saved by enemies. Mikata ga watashi wo kizutsuke, teki ga watashi wo sukutta. Allies hurt me. Enemies saved me. The irony is almost too much. Almost breaks something in the careful structure of how war is supposed to work. Who is supposed to be good? Who is supposed to be evil? What happens when the lines blur and disappear entirely? Lieutenant Chen brings clean nightgowns, real beds with mattresses, blankets, pillows, luxuries that seem impossible after years of sleeping on the ground or wooden platforms or anywhere you could find space. She shows them to their quarters. Tent with 8 cots, clean sheets, mosquito netting, electric lights. Tomorrow you shower, real soap, hot water, as much time as you need. Chen's Japanese is improving, still accented, still grammatically imperfect, but understandable. Sincere. Tonight rest. You are safe here. No one will hurt you. Safe. That word again, Anzen. The concept that does not translate. That does not fit into the space where war has been living for 3 years. But maybe it is true. Maybe this tent in this camp with these Americans is actually safe. Maybe the world can surprise you. Maybe enemies can choose mercy. The women lie in real beds, clean, fed, healing. Bodies that were violated are being repaired. Not perfectly, never perfectly. 4 metal fragments per woman will remain forever, but 10 or 11 extracted. Tuberculosis being treated. Dignity being restored piece by piece. Yuki stares at the canvas ceiling, thinks about Sergeant Hayes and his dead sister, about Lieutenant Chen in Protocol 7F, about Dr. Burns and his careful hands, about people who chose to heal when they could have chosen to harm, who saw prisoners as humans, who understood that mercy is not weakness, but the hardest form of strength. Outside the night sounds of an American military camp, vehicles, voices, the organized chaos of occupation. Inside 7 women breathe, sleep, dream, survive. Another day, another small victory against the forces that tried to destroy them. Tomorrow the hunt for Colonel Tanaka begins. Tomorrow justice starts its slow grinding work. Tomorrow brings new challenges. But tonight, for the first time in years, they sleep without fear. That is not nothing. That is everything. Dawn breaks over Okinawa with the kind of light that makes you believe in new beginnings. Golden, warm. The sort of sunrise that does not care about war or trauma or metal fragments embedded in human tissue. It just rises, illuminates, continues. The 7 women wake to the smell of breakfast, real breakfast, The kind that drifts through canvas walls and makes your stomach clench with anticipation even when your mind is still processing yesterday's revelations. Bacon. The scent is unmistakable. Salt and smoke and fat crisping in a pan somewhere nearby. Oh, 700 hours. The camp loudspeaker crackles. Breakfast service. All personnel and detainees report to mess tent. Yuki sits up slowly. Her abdomen aches from yesterday's surgery. 11 incisions, 11 extractions, 11 violations being slowly corrected. The stitches pull when she moves. Burns said it would hurt for a few days. Said that pain means healing. That bodies know how to repair themselves when given the chance. The mess tent is larger than the medical tents. Long tables, benches, American soldiers eating alongside Japanese prisoners with only subtle supervision. No guards with weapons, no hostile stares, just people eating breakfast. The normalcy is almost more shocking than the surgery. Lieutenant Chen waves them over, gestures to an empty table. Sit. Food comes soon. She disappears into the kitchen area, returns carrying trays, metal trays heaped with food. More food than Yuki has seen in months, maybe years. Scrambled eggs, yellow, real eggs from real chickens. Not the powdered substitute the Japanese military used when eggs were available at all. Bacon, strips of it, crispy, glistening, the fat catching light like amber. White toast, thick slices. Real butter melting into the bread, not the ersatz margarine that tasted like petroleum. Coffee, black, strong. The smell alone is enough to make you weep. Eat. Chen sits down with her own tray, demonstrates again. Fork, knife, American utensils that feel foreign in hands trained to use chopsticks. You need protein, calories. The streptomycin treatment is hard on your body. Food helps. Yuki picks up a strip of bacon, still warm. The fat has started to cool slightly, congealing. She bites, the salt hits first, then smoke, then the rich, dense flavor of pork fat and meat, and something she cannot identify. Some American seasoning, pepper maybe, or a technique in the curing. Whatever it is extraordinary. The bacon is crispy on the edges, tender in the middle. It dissolves on her tongue. Leaves behind taste that is almost overwhelming. She chews slowly, swallows, feels the food move down her throat, land in her empty stomach, warmth spreading, nourishment, life. In Japanese military camps, breakfast was rice porridge, watery, sometimes a bit of pickled vegetable, sometimes dried fish if supplies were good. Usually nothing. Just rice and water and the understanding that you should be grateful for anything. That hunger is part of service. That suffering builds character. This breakfast is abundance, excess, American plenty that seems almost obscene. But Chen eats the same food. The soldiers eat the same food. This is not special treatment. This is standard. This is how Americans feed people, even prisoners, even enemies, even women who 3 weeks ago were shooting at American forces. The cognitive dissonance is literally painful. Everything Yuki was taught about American brutality, American savagery, American hatred of the Japanese, all of it collapsing under the weight of bacon and eggs and butter and coffee. You cannot maintain propaganda in the face of scrambled eggs made with real butter. You cannot sustain hatred when someone feeds you breakfast without demands or conditions or expectations of anything in return. The other women eat in silence. Same realization spreading across 6 faces. Same understanding that the world is not what they thought, that enemies can be kind, that mercy exists in unexpected places, that maybe, just maybe, they were lied to about everything. After breakfast, medical treatment begins. 7:30 hours. The women line up outside the medical tent, same tent where everything changed yesterday, where X-rays revealed metal and tuberculosis in violation. Today it becomes something else. Place of healing, place of hope. Sergeant Hayes administers the first streptomycin injection himself. Yuki's left arm, same spot every day. Building routine, building trust. The needle stings. The medicine burns going in, thick, viscous, not like water, like something with substance, with weight, with power. This will hurt for a few minutes. Hayes's voice is professional, clinical, but not unkind. The burning means the medication is working, reaching your bloodstream, traveling to your lungs, and attacking the bacteria that would kill you if we did nothing. The burning is intense, like fire spreading under your skin, racing up her arm, branching through her chest, finding the shadow in her left lung, finding the tuberculosis that has been slowly suffocating her for months, finding it and killing it, cell by cell, bacteria by bacteria, death fighting death. How long? Yuki asked through the translator. How long until I am cured? 6 weeks of daily injections. Hayes checks her chart. Then 6 months of weekly doses. After that, chest x-rays every 3 months for 2 years. If the shadow is gone and stays gone, you are cured. Eboan. You survive. You get to live a full life instead of drowning in your own lungs before you turn 25. The math is brutal. Without treatment, Yuki has maybe 6 months. With treatment, she has decades. 50 years. 60. A lifetime that extends beyond this war into futures she cannot imagine. Children, grandchildren, old age, death from something normal instead of something preventable. All because enemies chose to heal instead of harm. Day 1, Yuki coughs blood into a handkerchief. Dark red, almost black. The color of lung tissue breaking down. The color of tuberculosis eating through barriers. The color of death working its way out. Hayes sees it, nods. Good, that is good. Your body is fighting back, expelling the damaged tissue, making room for healthy growth. Day 3, the coughing lessens. Not gone, but less frequent, less violent, less blood. Progress measured in milliliters, in minutes between coughing fits. In the ability to sleep for 2 hours straight without waking to hack your lungs out. Day 7. Yuki sleeps through the entire night, 8 hours, uninterrupted. She wakes confused, disoriented, sunlight streaming through canvas. Breakfast smells, the realization that she slept, actually slept. Not the half-conscious dozing of someone whose body cannot relax. Real sleep, deep, restorative, healing. Day 14. Hayes weighs her, 3 pounds gained, 3 pounds of muscle and tissue in recovery, 3 pounds that might not sound like much but represent the difference between slow starvation and gradual healing. He charts it, marks progress, writes notes in careful block letters. You are responding well. His voice carries something that might be satisfaction, might be relief, might be the ghost of his sister Sarah, who died because this medicine came 2 years too late. The shadow is shrinking. Another 4 weeks and it should be gone completely. Shrinking, not gone, but shrinking. The word itself is victory, proof that bodies can heal, that damage is not always permanent, that sometimes you get lucky, sometimes enemies save you, sometimes the universe offers mercy when you least expect it. In the background, a radio plays, Armed Forces Radio, broadcasting to American troops across the Pacific, music, news, baseball scores. The Brooklyn Dodgers beat the Chicago Cubs. 4-2, Ebbets Field, New York, a world away. A civilization that seems imaginary from this tent on this island in the middle of war. Yuki does not understand baseball, does not know the rules, cannot follow the play-by-play. But the sound is comforting, normal. The sound of a world where people care about games instead of survival, where entertainment exists, where life continues beyond the boundaries of conflict. Hayes listens while he works, charts temperatures, records blood pressure, checks lymph nodes. His hands move with practiced efficiency, but his ears track the game. Bottom of the 9th, tie score, bases loaded, the kind of moment that defines seasons. Do you like baseball? Yuki asks, surprising herself. This is the first voluntary conversation she has initiated with an American, the first time she has asked about something beyond medical necessity. Hayes pauses, considers. My father took me to games when I was young, before the war, before everything. We would sit in the stands and eat hot dogs and keep score on little cards they gave out free. He taught me how to calculate batting averages, how to read the strategy, how to appreciate the beauty of a well-executed double play. His voice carries nostalgia, loss, The particular grief of childhood memories that can never be recreated, of fathers and sons and moments that seemed ordinary at the time but become precious in retrospect. I do not understand the rules. Yuki admits, it seems complicated. It is. Hayes smiles slightly. First time she has seen him smile. It transforms his face, makes him look younger, less tired, more human. But that is part of the appeal. Complex enough to require attention. Simple enough to be beautiful. Like a lot of things worth doing. He returns to his examination. The smile fades. The professional mask returns. But something has shifted. Some small barrier has lowered. Some recognition that they are both humans trapped in circumstances neither chose. Both trying to survive. Both carrying losses that do not translate across languages. Week 6. The shadow on Yuki's lung has shrunk by 70%. Hayes shows her the X-ray, points to the difference. Where dense cloud filled her left lung 6 weeks ago, now only faint wisps remain. Like fog burning off in morning sun. Still there, but retreating, dying, losing ground to medicine and time, and her body's stubborn refusal to quit. You will make a full recovery. Hayes' voice is definitive, certain. Another 6 weeks and the tuberculosis will be completely gone. You will live. You will breathe without pain. You will grow old and die of something else decades from now. Yuki stares at the X-ray, at the proof of healing, at evidence that enemies saw her as worth saving. She tries to speak. Cannot. Throat closing, eyes burning. Not pain, something else. Something she does not have words for in Japanese or English or any language. Thank you. Finally, in English, clumsy pronunciation, accent thick, but sincere. Thank you for my life. Hayes nods once. Just once. His eyes are bright, suspiciously bright. He turns away, busies himself with paperwork, hiding whatever emotion threatens to surface. He does this job every day, saves people every day. But maybe it never gets routine. Maybe each life saved carries the weight of the one he could not save. The sister who died before this medicine existed, before mercy had the tools to be effective. That evening, Yuki writes a letter. Her English is poor, broken, grammatically incorrect. But Lieutenant Chen helps, translates intent even when vocabulary fails. The sentiment is Yuki's, the desperation to express gratitude for something she can never repay. Dear Sergeant Hayes, I am told by Lieutenant Chen about your sister Sarah. I am sorry for your loss. I am sorry she died before this medicine existed. I am sorry you could not save her, but I want you to know that the medicine you give to me is working. The shadow is shrinking. You said I will make full recovery. Because you could not save your sister, you saved me instead. I do not know if that brings you comfort or pain, perhaps both, but I am grateful, not just for medicine, for seeing me as person who deserves to be saved. In my country, I was taught Americans are enemies. That capture meant death or worse. You have shown me that what we are taught and what is true can be very different things. I will recover because of you. I will live because you chose to heal instead of hurt. That is something Sarah would be proud of, I think. With sincere gratitude, Yuki Nakamura. She gives the letter to Chen to deliver, does not expect response. The letter is not for conversation. It is for acknowledgement, for saying aloud the thing that needs to be said even if no one answers, for putting gratitude into words even when words are inadequate. 2 days later, Hayes finds her after the morning injection. He does not speak, does not need to, just stands there, looking at her. His eyes are red, rimmed, not from crying. Men like Hayes do not cry, but from something close, from emotion held carefully in check, from recognition that sometimes saving one person does not erase losing another, but it helps. It helps. He nods once, she nods back. That is enough. That is everything. August 6th, news arrives like thunder. A new type of bomb, dropped on Hiroshima. The entire city destroyed. Casualties in the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. Numbers too large to comprehend, too abstract to feel real. The mess tent goes quiet when the announcement comes over the radio. American soldiers stare at each other, shocked, awed, horrified. This is victory, but victory that tastes like ash. like apocalypse, like the future arriving too fast with too much power. The Japanese women react differently. Sachiko starts crying. Quiet tears. No sound. Just water streaming down her face. Fumiko walks out of the tent, stands in the sun, staring at nothing. Keiko whispers prayers to gods who may or may not be listening anymore. Yuki feels nothing, then everything, then nothing again. Hiroshima. She has never been there, knows no one there, but it is still her country, her people, her emperor's subjects dying in flash fire and radiation and collapse, dying in ways that should not be possible, that rewrite the rules of warfare, that make everything before seem quaint. 3 days later, Nagasaki, another bomb, another city erased. The message is clear. Japan can surrender or Japan can disappear. Those are the options. Nothing in between. August 15th, the emperor's voice on the radio, thin, reedy. Most Japanese have never heard him speak. He exists as abstraction. Divine figure, living God, not someone who uses human voice to communicate human words. But today he speaks, announces surrender. The war is over. The dying stops. The empire ends. In the American camp, soldiers celebrate, cautiously at first, then louder. Beer appears from somewhere. Music, dancing, relief that they will not have to invade mainland Japan, will not have to fight through cities and mountains against population that has been told to resist to the last person. Relief that they might actually survive this war, might go home, might see families again. The Japanese women sit apart, not celebrating, not mourning exactly, something more complicated. Relief that the killing has stopped, horror at the shame at defeat, confusion about what comes next, guilt that they are alive and being healed while thousands, millions died in the final weeks. Yuki feels all of this and something else, something harder to name. She is alive because she surrendered, because she became prisoner, because she received treatment that her countrymen did not. How many Japanese women died of tuberculosis in the 6 weeks she has been receiving streptomycin? How many died in Hiroshima? In Nagasaki? How many did because they were not lucky enough to be captured by the right Americans at the right moment? There is no logic to survival, no fairness, no justice, just random chance and geographic lottery and timing that can never be controlled. She is alive. Others are dead. That is not her fault. But it feels like fault anyway. Feels like something that requires explanation or apology or penance. Reiko takes the news differently. She stands in the tent entrance, watches smoke rise from cooking fires in the American camp, listens to soldiers celebrating, tries to feel something about the war ending. Cannot, it is over, Yuki says, standing beside her. The war is over. We survived. No, Reiko's voice is flat, emotionless. The war ending is just the beginning. Now comes the reckoning. Now we face what we did, what was done to us. Now comes the part where we stand in front of judges and explain the inexplicable. You do not have to testify. Yuki tries. You were coerced. They know that. They understand. Yes, I do. Reiko turns to look at her. Have to testify. If I do not, Colonel Tanaka walks free. He finds new women to use, new nurses to threaten, new victims. I am the only one who can describe exactly what happened in that operating room. Who cut, who held, who watched, who ordered. I am the only witness with complete knowledge. It will destroy you, speaking it aloud, reliving it, facing Tanaka across a courtroom. I am already destroyed. Reiko's voice does not waver. At least this way the destruction means something. At least something good comes from the breaking. Yuki has no response to that, no comfort to offer, no words that make any difference. So she just stands there, bearing witness, being present. Sometimes that is all you can do. July 1945. Before the bombs, before surrender, before everything changed. An elderly Japanese man approaches the American checkpoint outside Naha, 60 years old, civilian clothes, carrying a battered briefcase. He asks to speak with war crimes investigators. The guards are skeptical. Another person with a story, another claim, another alleged atrocity in a war full of atrocities. But something about his demeanor makes them pause. Something calm, certain. The bearing of a man who knows exactly what he carries and why it matters. They bring him to Captain Webb. My name is Hiroshi Tanaka, no relation to the colonel. Common name. The man speaks careful English, learned in better times. Before the Empire decided expansion was destiny, I was administrative clerk for Unit 731, Records Department. I filed reports, processed paperwork, maintained documentation. Webb's attention sharpens. Unit 731, the words that make everything else stop. The designation that carries weight beyond its numbers. Go on. I kept copies. Hiroshi opens his briefcase. Inside documents, files, personnel records, transfer orders, all stamped with Unit 731 seals. Official, authentic. The kind of documentation that should have been burned when the facility evacuated, when the evidence was supposed to disappear, when convenient amnesia became institutional policy. Why? Webb asks, why keep copies? Why risk it? Because what they did was wrong. Hiroshi's hands shake slightly, not from fear, from conviction, from the weight of carrying knowledge that could destroy you. I processed the paperwork. I filed the reports. I knew what the experiments involved. I read the observation notes, the casualty rates, the disposal procedures. I did nothing to stop it. The least I can do now is provide evidence. Webb opens the first file, detailed logs of medical procedures, dates, subjects, outcomes, results, all in meticulous, bureaucratic Japanese, the language of atrocity sanitized through administrative process. Subject 14, not Yuki Nakamura. Just number, just data point, just resource consumed in pursuit of knowledge. The second file contains personnel records, assignment histories, transfer orders, names of every officer and doctor and nurse who served at Harbin between 1943 and 1945. Ranks, specialties, current postings. A roadmap to justice if anyone has the will to follow it. The third file is a single sheet of paper, handwritten, recently updated. Current whereabouts of key Unit 731 personnel. Colonel Kenji Tanaka, location Fukuoka. Working as administrator at civilian hospital under assumed name Yamamoto. The alias is almost insulting in its simplicity, as if changing one syllable is a sufficient disguise for war crimes. You know where he is. Webb looks up slowly, right now, today, where Tanaka is living and working and pretending to be civilian administrator with no blood on his hands. I know where he was 2 weeks ago. Hiroshi closes the briefcase. Whether he is still there, I cannot say, but it is a starting point. It is more than you had before I walked through that checkpoint. It is enough. Webb sends urgent cable to General MacArthur's headquarters. Priority 1. Unit 731 war criminal located. Request immediate apprehension. Within 48 hours, military police descend on the hospital in Fukuoka. They find Tanaka exactly where Hiroshi said. Working morning rounds, white coat, stethoscope, playing doctor, playing savior, playing human. The MPs arrest him during patient consultations. He does not resist, does not protest, does not run. Just removes his gold-rimmed glasses, polishes them with the white cloth from his breast pocket, puts them back on, adjusts his collar, asks what this is about as if he genuinely does not know. As if there is any universe where he does not know exactly what this is about. You are being detained for questioning regarding war crimes committed at Unit 731 Medical Facility in Harbin, Manchuria. The MP's voice is neutral, professional, just delivering information, just following orders, just doing the job. I see. That is all Tanaka says. 2 words. I see. No denial, no explanation, no emotion, just acknowledgement, just recognition that the past has finally arrived, that running only delays, never prevents, that eventually everyone faces consequences for choices made in shadows. They transport him to Okinawa 3 days later. Maximum security detention. 24-hour guard. Cell with metal cot and thin mattress and single blanket. The accommodations are better than he gave his victims. The food is regular. The water is clean. He receives medical attention if needed. Justice is not vengeance. Justice is process. Justice is putting a man in a cell and making him wait while evidence accumulates and testimonies are gathered and the machinery of law grinds forward. Webb visits the cell on day 4, after Tanaka has had time to settle, to understand his situation, to realize that this is not temporary detention, not administrative mix-up, not something that will be resolved through connections or bribes or convenient transfers. Colonel Tanaka. Webb sits outside the bars, does not enter, does not get close, just observes, studies, catalogs details the way Tanaka once cataloged experimental subjects. Or do you prefer Yamamoto now? Names are administrative designations. Tanaka's voice is soft, cultured, the voice of education and breeding and class, the voice that makes orders sound like suggestions, that makes atrocities sound like policy. Tanaka is fine. You know why you are here. Not a question. Statement. Webb pulls out folder, opens it. 7 photographs. 7 women, 7 x-rays showing metal fragments scattered like accusations. Do you recognize these women? Webb watches Tanaka's face, searching for reaction, finding nothing. Just polite attention, just professional courtesy, just the mask of a man who learned long ago that showing emotion is weakness. I oversaw many personnel during my service. Tanaka does not look at the photographs, keeps his eyes on Webb. I cannot be expected to remember every face, every name, every individual case. There were hundreds, perhaps thousands. They blend together after a time. These specific women were nurses under your command at Harbin. February through April 1945, they received injections you authorized. Injections that were actually surgical implantation of radioactive tracking devices, without consent, without knowledge, without any consideration for their humanity. Many medical procedures were conducted at Harbin. Tanaka remains calm, centered, as if discussing weather instead of war crimes. I authorized those deemed necessary for research. That was my duty, my role. Following orders from higher authority and ensuring proper implementation. Experimental procedures on unwilling subjects. Webb's voice stays level, controlled. He has done this before. Interviewed monsters who look like mild-mannered bureaucrats, who speak in passive voice, who hide behind duty and orders and necessity without informed consent, resulting in permanent injury, resulting in deaths. The needs of the empire sometimes require difficult decisions. Tanaka cleans his glasses. The white cloth moves in slow, precise circles, polishing away smudges that may or may not exist. Polishing away guilt that definitely exists, sacrifices in service of greater good. Progress requires experimentation. Experimentation requires subjects. This is not controversial. This is established scientific method. Your subjects were human beings, women who trusted you, who believed they were receiving vitamins, who had no idea you were cutting them open and planting metal inside them while they were unconscious. They served the emperor, as did I, as did everyone. We all served in the ways we were directed, some through combat, some through support roles, some through research. All equally valuable, all equally necessary. Webb closes the folder, stands, looks down at Tanaka sitting calm and composed on his metal cot. You will have opportunity to explain your service at tribunal. These women will testify about what you did to them, how you selected them, how you lied to them, how you violated them. Every detail, every horror, all of it on record. I look forward to presenting my defense. Tanaka's voice never changes, never shows strain, never cracks. I have nothing to hide. I followed proper procedure. I documented everything. I maintained standards. Whatever judgment comes, I will accept knowing I fulfilled my duty to the empire. Webb leaves the cell, disturbed, not by Tanaka's guilt. That is obvious, documented, provable. Disturbed by his lack of conscience, his absolute certainty that he did nothing wrong, his genuine belief that following orders absolves all moral responsibility. That duty justifies any action. That the empire's needs supersede individual humanity. This is the face of evil, not dramatic, not theatrical, not cackling villain in melodrama. Just mild-mannered officer who committed atrocities because procedures said to, who destroyed lives because orders directed him, who slept soundly because conscience never engaged. This is the man 7 women will face in tribunal. The man they will confront with their testimony. The man who still, even now, sitting in detention awaiting trial, does not see them as human, just sees subjects, numbers, data points and research that serve the empire. Justice may come, or it may not. But regardless, this man will never understand what he did wrong, will never grasp the magnitude of violation, will never see the 7 women as anything more than necessary sacrifices in service of progress. That is the horror, not that evil exists, that evil thinks it is good, that monsters believe they are heroes. That atrocity wraps itself in duty and honor and service, and convinces itself that following orders is the same as doing right. The tribunal will convene in September, after the surrender, after the occupation begins, after new government takes control and old orders become invalid, after the empire falls and everyone who served it must face judgment. 7 women wait, heal, prepare, grow stronger, breathe easier, live longer than they should have, all because enemies chose mercy. And one colonel sits in a cell, polishing his glasses, waiting for his chance to explain that everything he did was duty, was honor, was service. Both sides believe they are right. Only one side is human. The reckoning is coming. Justice is uncertain. But truth will be spoken. That much is guaranteed. The end of war is never clean, never simple, never satisfying. It just stops. And everyone left alive must figure out how to continue, how to heal, how to forgive or not forgive, how to live with what they did and what was done to them. 7 women will try, 1 colonel will not. That difference matters. That difference is everything. September 1946. The tribunal concludes after 8 weeks of testimony. 94 women testified, not just 7. The pattern was undeniable. Systematic, deliberate, repeated across 3 years. The verdict arrives on a cold morning. Colonel Kenji Tanaka. Guilty on all charges. 15 years hard labor. 12 field officers receive sentences ranging from 3 to 20 years. The courtroom erupts. Some cry, some sit silent. Yuki feels nothing at first, then everything. But Captain Webb finds her on the courthouse steps with news that tastes like ash. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the surgeon who cut them open. Immunity granted, part of a larger deal. 43 Unit 7, 3-1 personnel walk free in exchange for research data. American intelligence wants the information before the Soviets get it. The man who implanted metal in her abdomen will never face trial, will work for American biological research programs instead, providing his expertise, benefiting from his crimes. Justice was not complete, but better than zero. Yuki accepts it, has to accept it. What choice exists? 42 years pass. 1987. Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. Yuki Nakamura, 64 years old. White hair, steady hands. She donates the white gown, the one Lieutenant Chen gave her that first day, kept for 4 decades. The museum accepts it with reverence. The display label reads in Yuki's own words. First-time enemy saw me as human. Okinawa, June 1945. I was taught Americans were beasts. This gown taught me lies can be broken by simple acts of mercy. The exhibit opens April 1987. Japanese media covers it. An American veteran reads the story in Pacific Stars and Stripes. David Hayes, 68 years old, son of Sergeant Michael Hayes. He writes to the museum, includes his father's field journal. One entry mentions Yuki, June 14, 1945. Examined Japanese nurse age 22. Reminds me of Sarah. Must make sure this one survives. He sends a photograph. Michael Hayes, 34, Okinawa, stethoscope around his neck. Tired eyes, the man who saved her life. December 2003, Japanese-American Friendship Foundation ceremony. Tokyo. Yuki is 80, David Hayes 84. He brings the photograph, the journal, his father's stethoscope. Backstage they meet. She cannot speak at first, just traces his father's face through the glass. David holds out the stethoscope. My father would want you to have this. Yuki sees a young woman nearby in medical scrubs. Event staff. She places the stethoscope around the woman's neck. This belonged to an American doctor who saved a Japanese nurse's life. Now it belongs to you. The young woman tears up. My name is Sarah Chen, named after my great aunt. She died of tuberculosis in 1943. The circle closes. Sarah dies. Michael saves Yuki. Descendant named Sarah receives the stethoscope. Full circle across 60 years. Yuki gives her keynote address. In June 1945, I heard 6 words I believed would end my life. Let me feel your breaths. What came after was examination, not assault, diagnosis, not violation, treatment, not torture. My enemy saved my life from my allies' experiments. This is how America won the war. Not just with bullets, but with mercy. 2008. Yuki Nakamura dies peacefully, age 85. The tuberculosis that would have killed her in 1945 was cured 63 years earlier. 3 metal fragments remain in her body, inert, permanent, evidence that carries to her grave. David Hayes attends the funeral, 88, wheelchair. He places his father's photograph in her casket. Now they are together, the man who saved, the woman who survived. The white gown still hangs in Hiroshima. Beside it now, Hayes's photograph. The field journal, x-rays, tribunal documents. The display reads, "This is how America won the war. Not just with bullets, but with mercy."